And Patrick's not on quite yet.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Delighted that you're here. Honored and looking forward to seeing what unfolds today. Some of you have previously met, maybe in person at intensives at Heartland or workshops in Florida or Birmingham or Atlanta or many different places. A gentleman named PatrickMcGhan, who was actually one of my first contacts in the healing world when I first went back to naturopathic school and moved to Atlanta. So Patrick and I have known each other for 50 years. He's a fellow naturopath. And when I was in Florida back a few weeks ago, I did the Quantum StillPoint process with him. And we've been kind of bouncing back and forth in that conversation. Actually, the people who I have done the process with, I've been communicating with and looking to put the process into an understandable format, something that explains some of what's going on, builds the brain cells to prep people for the process, and or opens people to be able to engage in some of the dynamics of the new 3-day one-on-one personal intensive called Quantum StillPoint, Into Being Quantum StillPoint. So Patrick and I had a conversation. Actually, he's been working with me in developing. He's a body worker. He was my first massage therapist. One of the stories you probably heard me talk about Patrick, he's a master at aligning the form. And this goes back probably 20 years ago. I was doing a series of workshops in the Tampa Bay area, and Patrick does a process of whole body alignment. And he did a session with me of this whole body alignment. And I mean, he's a master at it. And that evening I was speaking. I was doing a workshop there in Florida. And the presentation that I did was the easiest, the most powerful, the clearest my mind had ever been in terms of my ability to grasp information, my ability to put it together, his physiological alignment process that he does. So it'll be interesting because I had shared the latest rendition of the description of Quantum StillPoint with Patrick just yesterday, and it had been the second time in just a few days that I shared it with him, and for the second time he went into such a deep process that he just kind of went unconscious. And so when I shared it with him and he went out again, our next conversation was, okay, so it puts you into process. And, one thing led to another, and he said, well, we ended up conversing about calling to the show and sharing a little bit about his experience, pardon me, and then going through the definition again, one, to see what impact it has on him now, and two, so that it's available recorded. I have shared some bits and pieces of it over the last several weeks, but I've come to a new level of putting it together, and so when Patrick arrives, we'll step into that conversation. Is he there, Jeannie?
He is. I turned on his mic, but there was noise in the background, so I muted it. All right, Patrick, awesome. Welcome.
Okay.
Hey there, PatrickMcGhan. How do you be, sir? I just gave a little introduction to our earlier conversation and where we're going to head today. So,
yeah, I heard the introduction.
How do you be?
And I am good. I'm really good. I'm having a good life. Not always
Did the introduction
easy,
capture everything you want to share?
Yeah. First thing I want to share, I want to make sure about that the work we did was understood and how it parallels with yours, and then go into yours. So mine will be really brief. What we did was, I want to make sure, that was center line balancing, where we did just movements and alignment. They were very gentle, nothing strong, strenuous, or any deep body work, right?
Yeah, that was
we did
the
when you were
subtlest.
able to speak well? Okay, more
Subtlest work.
subtle.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that alignment experience stands out in my memory bank as putting my mind into one of the clearest spaces I'd ever been in. So thank you for that.
And I thank you for the same thing. And this is my perspective. If anybody wants that, I'll be glad to teach that, and I'll be putting that together for some things online. But the basics that are the same is effortlessness and letting go of what doesn't belong, forgiveness. So this particular thing I was doing is non-force. So it's just about moving back and forth very gently, warily, across joint centers and releasing the stress that's pulling one way or the other due to negative emotions or survival emotions or the emotions of the separated human being. So once it's achieved, the input from the universe, from your soul, et cetera, is just phenomenal. It's like you don't have to effort anything. Everything just comes through, and it's beautiful. But whatever, either in that or body work or anything that's not complete on a mental, emotional level of belief systems and unforgiven things will bring back physical form to change. So, we get to achieve, we get a big burst when you do a session like that. And if you do it, every day when you work on the computer, it's a phenomenal thing. And it's really good. But definitely the forgiveness work is maximal to not having to repeat patterns and have pain physiologically, et cetera, et cetera. So then what happened for me was over the past, by the way, that class I taught it at a physical unit for accidents and injuries, and I was told I couldn't teach anymore because people got well too fast. So that's so I split off and did my own practice. So now we come that I do about 40 years of going through being a human with my belief systems that are survival oriented and separative, et cetera. And I loaded up enough to where my own process was not as easy for me to achieve because my body took on and suppressed more and more energies that I didn't want to feel or I didn't have time to resolve or believed I didn't anyway. So I ended up a little stiffer, a little harder to release the defensive mechanisms. They were pulling me out of alignment. And then I got the great opportunity to do the still point with Michael. Still point's always been phenomenal, but this was beyond phenomenal. So
yeah, the quantum still point takes it to a whole other level for sure.
Yeah. So doing still, I can't. I'm just going to go over the results after 3 days. So I love the results, but at the completion, I had been knowing.
It sounds like you're moving away from your phone a little bit, Patrick.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Good. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm
yes,
sorry.
sir.
I was moving from room to room. Had my hand over the mic area, I think. So now I'm settled in. So the hardest part was I emotionally suppressed. Each of us has a different way. One of my ways was programmed in was to overeat and to eat more than what I needed. So I gained weight and had this nice tummy that pulled me forward and down and would pull the lumbar forward. So I ended up with, three bulging discs and one torn. And I was told about 5 or 6 years ago, you need surgery immediately. And I said, no way, I'm going to fix this myself, right? So we had a little argument. And I've been getting better and better and better. But the biggest thing was I needed to untilt the pelvis and put it as a foundation underneath. And I don't know if you have the language, but the sacrum in between the two hemispheres of the pelvis called iliums, that sacrum is sacred. But the top of it is the base for everything, like people that can speak about this, that, the other, the antenna, the kundalini, whatever. But if that base, that foundation's off, everything above's got to be off. Vice versa, the atlas holds up your world. So your atlas is the other base that to me is extremely important. 3 different types of chiropractic work just with that. And everything, once that changes, that relationship of the cranium to the atlas, everything below changes. And that's the area where Michael's working more up in that area. And everything we're holding, we hold anywhere and everywhere in our body, but every negative emotion pulls the body. I call it emotional posturing, and I work with what's that called? Ergonomic posturing, or least effort posturing. So emotional posturing, if you inhibit emotions, you still just tighten up. You may not look like it, but you're a tighter person, inhibiting more emotion so you can deal with it. So I do this process with Michael on the last day, at the last moment. I mean, I was just loving it to begin with. And then I didn't, and then I did because the breakthrough was...
You're talking about the Quantum StillPoint now?
Yeah, it's Quantum StillPoint.
Okay.
Quantum StillPoint,
right.
I loved it all the way through, okay? I'm sorry that that's the way my mind works, all over the place. So all the way through, and then at the last, it was a major breakthrough, building, and the major breakthrough was that my awareness as a child was a lot more than what I can handle at the time, but I was aware of anything and anybody and what was going on in their house in the neighborhood, and I had a lot of awareness, but I couldn't handle it. So I shut a lot of it off, and then to handle it, and then I learned a lot. So after 50, 60, 70 years, 70 years later, I've got a lot of wisdom, but my body was jammed up, and I couldn't line my antenna up very easily anymore. It was good, but not the way I wanted it. But at the very end, all of a sudden, I gained the awareness that I had as a child, all of it. But it was easier to look at everything. So I could look and see into everybody and everything so much easier, but now without judgment, or a lot less judgment, or easier to peel back those judgments, be they positive or negative. Whatever needs to be let go of is easy to let go of now. That's the number one, awareness. Awareness, the same as when I was a child, but with my added wisdom of what to do with that awareness. Then my internal awareness, I had been working on that since I met you in Atlanta, was when I started on internal awareness. And it had been building and building, but I couldn't hold on to it enough to make enough changes to maintain non-pelvic tilt during the daytime. We're all going conscious when we're working to some degree. Hopefully we'll all go totally conscious someday, but it's really hard to get into work mode, and for most of us, and go and be present and be aware. That's my goal, but wasn't there. And all of a sudden it was there. Pelvis, I was able to roll it under very gently, very lightly, get the balance, and then we thought that was a major change. So the awareness was the major change, and being able to do that so subtly, quickly, and easily was second change. Third change was I could do that with my head, my atlas, my spine, the other areas of my body. All that awareness was easier to maintain, easier to release any aberrant or not great pattern. So my projection, my reality right now on posturing is that we have, and when we're aligned, when a body's aligned more towards the perfection of beingness and love and what we really are, who we really are, then that's what we put out, that's what we get in, that's our experience. And then every negative belief system or unforgiven trauma survival mechanism that we have, that we believe in, we keep repeating. And so now I'm able, every time any pull comes off, whatever, I can observe myself phenomenally more so. I can be present phenomenally more so. Aware of myself internally, aware of others and what's going on for them and where they're at. So my work with myself and my work on anything I'm doing has improved, I'd say, vastly. At least, if I was at 75%, now I'm at 125% of what I can do for others.
You can't argue with that.
For myself. No, I can't argue with it at all. So I'm very excited. Now the next, so that was me, and I'm having a great time with it, and nothing disappeared. Everything, I'm more aware and more, learning more quickly. More breakthroughs have come from it and my progress. And then Michael wanted to share with me. Now, for me, I was thinking in advertising and his work, what do? Well, you had a headline, and then you're short, brief, and to the point. And Michael was being anything but that. He's doing this long page after page, and I didn't know what it was. It's like poetry. It's like prose. It's like almost like a mini novel. But he's reading it to me, and I've eaten it. I'm in a parking lot, and I got my what we call Florida air conditioning. I'm in the shade of a tree, so I'm not going to burn up. And next thing I know, I pass out right at the end. Close to the end, I kept getting better, more relaxed, more subtle, and all of a sudden, and breathing smoothly, and then I'm gone. And I'm gone into a really nice space, very similar to not the super awareness, but the let go of the whole process we did. So then
returning to the quantum StillPoint.
Yeah, that's my belief.
Yeah.
And so to me, we did the same thing yesterday. I'm laying in bed and Michael starts yelling over the phone, "Patrick, where are you, Patrick?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm gone again." And then we had a discussion, and this is my view, my projection, that energy that Michael does this with is the energy as close as possible of the still point, and it holds the still point, the quantum still point. And it, for me, two questions. One, is this the effect for me because I remember it, so it brings it all back? But I don't think so. I think additionally for anyone, and we could do an experiment I'd like to do today, and that would be for Michael to read it, and then all of us just to maybe lay down and relax and listen and see what happens. And then we could report what happened for us at the end, and then we'll know what the effect is of just transmitting the energy on a verbal and past verbal, his voice tones, his love, the signature of the love that he's bringing through. I think it's pretty phenomenal, so I'd love to do that if anybody's up for it.
Sure, I'm up for it, and my take would be that the fact that you went into that, we've physically done, mentally, emotionally done the quantum still point, that it's easier for you to return to that aligned space, which puts you right back into process and taking it to the next level. So that would be my take, and it'll be interesting to see with the fact that that's happened for you the last couple of days, and we'll see what happens. I will read it now, but we'll see what happens, and see what happens with you were talking about that change, that upgrade in awareness that you got out of the session, and the change in the tilt of your pelvis. And if I remember correctly, I think you'd shared with me previously that you'd worked on getting that, being an expert in aligning the form and centerline balancing, that pelvis change was one you'd worked on for about 3 years, and just bang, in an instant it shifted.
Actually,
and that would to me would be as a result of realignment.
But I've worked on it for a lot longer.
Say again?
I'd say focused work for the last 3 years without a lot of breakthrough. Progressive and back and forth and fight. It's been like a little fight for 3 years where I really focused on it. And now it's just a breakthrough. And also, there was a problem created by, the thoracic, I didn't even know that was a reciprocal problem, but I realized it after the work, and I was able to identify what was going on with the sternum and the et cetera. The base for the cranium to balance on the atlas, you got to have a base in the neck, and that means that rib cage and the thoracic cannot be rolled down and forward, which is usually to do with negative emotions of anger or depression or just not feeling great about yourself. So mine was a lot built by being a swimmer and by pushing a lawnmower, and then by doing body work down and forward. And I didn't know it, but I needed to slightly tone the latissimus dorsi in the back. And I mean, we're talking, all this is in ounces, 1 or 2 ounces max, and totally changed everything. And totally changed all the different awarenesses and the way I feel about myself and about everything when I play with that and engage that. So it's better than it's ever been. And I know that what you said's true, that I've had the sessions, so I'll probably get more. But I really would like to ask whoever's out there who's up for this while you're reading it and what they feel like before and after. I'd like to know, just by the energy that you bring through when you read it, because it's beautiful.
Cool.
It's beautiful.
Sweet.
Well,
let's go for it then.
Again so I can lay down. Okay.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a restroom break real quick, make sure don't have to interrupt, and I'll come back and tell you that I laid down. Okay?
Go for it. Okay. And all of a sudden, we heard your voice loud and clear, Patrick. You came through full blast the last second or two. I don't know what changed, but anyway. Well, then, let's just, while you're doing your restroom intermission, let's just see if there's anybody out there in listener land that has a thought, a question. Maybe there's someone else who has done the Quantum StillPoint that has an idea to throw in here before we get into defining exactly what it means. And Jeannie, maybe we could mute Patrick while he's moving around in the background. And so do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up, sweetheart, or anybody in the chat room?
I had received a question, and I didn't show that I had so I'm not sure that we actually addressed their question. So I was just trying to find it here.
Okay. Is it a question regarding the Quantum StillPoint?
No.
Okay. Probably we don't want to get into another topic at this point, so let's hold that question.
Okay.
Since Patrick had come in first, and so we'll put that question on hold. But if there's anybody out there that has to share a question from what we've spoken of so far, or anybody out there who has done the Quantum StillPoint that would like to share or has a question, then the line is open. And if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you in our control panel, the call number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you're listening to the show directly. And then if you push 1, that raises a hand in the control panel. And we'll be having a conversation. So anybody out there in listener land that has a thought for us? And if not, then I'll just share that for those who maybe are new to the show, listening for the first time, we have talked about the Quantum StillPoint on a few occasions. And, you know, we haven't done an intensive season since 2019 at Heartland. COVID started, and then with COVID going on, we did not open for a couple of years. And frankly, the last year or two, it's just been more work than I wanted to do with our obligations here with our granddaughter and such to do an intensive season. So I started to do just very recently this process that I'm describing as Quantum StillPoint, and it's a one-on-one personal intensive that happens over a period of 3 days. Actually 3 days, or it can be more. We've actually got a gentleman who's flying over from Sweden in about 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks, and we're going to be taking him through the process. Gentleman who's been to Heartland, who was on the support team way back years ago and has been doing his work all these years, and he's ready to take everything to the next level. So So it's an intensive process, and normally what people do is they come here. We're in Bristol, Virginia, so they come here and get a hotel. I work with them in the hotel one-on-one over a period of 3 days. Day of the intensive is basically some energy field work and the breath to smooth out and simply start the opening process, paying attention to where resistance lies. And a big component of the process is becoming aware of resistance and being able to soften into that resistance in order to allow whatever flow is being held back to be restored. And then the third day moves it into the next level, into the Quantum StillPoint, which works with bringing the core of the structure into alignment so that there's a full complement of energy that comes through the system. And when that occurs, it's kind of like if you've ever been cleaning off the sidewalk and there's some muck on the sidewalk, and what do? You kink the hose and you let the pressure build up and it flushes out. Well, that kind of extra rush of energy is part of what happens when one steps into the Quantum StillPoint, and the flush, the energetic flush that happens is all just part of the process. So that's what Quantum StillPoint is. And it's a combination, actually some early work that I did very early in my medical training back 50 years ago. And it's a work that is more intense than works to do in a regular intensive situation. If you come to Heartland and there are 30, 40, 50 people there, it's not the kind of work that works in that environment. It's a one-on-one process. And so that's where that process happens in a private setting. And let's just move into a reading of what that process means. So, awakening to being through Quantum StillPoint. So what is that process? And I'd like to actually start out with a quote that when I was doing some research on, for myself, understanding this process, I came across a quote from Carl Jung that to me was just so powerful in looking at the whole of the system. I'd like to start out with that particular idea. And here's what he says. The healer is not just working for a particular patient, but for him, herself, as well as his own soul. And in so doing, he is perhaps laying an infinitesimal grain in the scales of humanity's soul. Small and invisible as his contribution may be, it is yet an opus magnum. And to me, what impacts about that statement is that, and would I ever love to have spent some time in the energy field of Carl Jung? That would have been just awesome. But his grasp, his comprehension of the wholeness of being and how what each of us does in the way of our individual work, how it impacts each and every other person that has ever lived. So in the Quantum StillPoint, our practice is that of welcoming an instant of communication and healing through a moment of profound silence brought on by energy field work and the unwinding of the power of the StillPoint breath. both of which contribute to opening doors we may not even have known existed. Now, known in the ancient Aramaic language, Ruku to Kudsha, the breath, when we're talking about the still point breath, carries a wisdom from within, a knowing that's always been with you and is literally, in Aramaic, defined as a feminine elemental force that undoes the effects of your errors and teaches you the truth. So in the process, we're enlisting that feminine elemental force that resides within us. The 3 days is geared to support the participant in gaining a subtle awareness of any form of resistance and developing the skill involved in opening to the deepest still points through willingness and the unreserved release of that resistance, physical, mental, and emotional. And by so doing, creating a reset from within of physiology and mind that is generally considered to be impossible. The objective is to open the space for deep structural and energetic realignment and reorganization brought on by the freeing, if only for an instant, the mind, which results in deep silence. Mystics and yogis spend years in an attempt to experience this level of relief from the mind and develop this level of internal awareness. Nobel Prize winner Max Planck said, "In all my research, I have never come across matter. To me, the term matter implies a bundle of energy which is given form by an intelligent spirit. As a man who's devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you, as a result of my research about atoms, this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter." Now that was written by Max Planck, who's a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, for his discovery of quantum theory. And quantum theory just totally revolutionized the understanding of atomic and subatomic processes. And if it's understood and applied, it revolutionizes the world of healing. You remember when we were talking about the conflict going on in the Middle East, and I shared that one of the first instances that I'm aware of where quantum understanding, quantum theory was applied, is in the book of Job in the scriptures, where Job goes through all of this trauma and loss and tragedy. And in a flash of insight, which if you read the book, for quite some time he ignores, in a flash of insight, Job recognizes quantum mechanics, and he says, "That which I feared most has come upon me. That which I dreaded has happened to me." That's Max Planck's work. And then, though Job, if you read through the whole book, Job comes up with that, but he's in such confusion, and there's so many people around him with so much noise and distraction that he doesn't act on or recognize even the insight that has come to him. And then finally, when he expresses what changed and restored everything he'd lost. It happened as a result, he says, as I took back my words. So Job is talking here about looking within, and Carl Jung offers this piece of genius advice. Who looks without, that is perception, dreams. Who looks within awakens. Through this sacred journey of quantum stillpoint, trust enters, perception is quelled, and the voice of the past is weakened as physiology moves into a superconductor state that allows the full experience of conscious, active, present love to enter and do the work of transmuting anything unlike itself. This transmutation gives you back the power that has, through blame, been energetically locked up and rendered unavailable because it has been hidden by denial within generations of unresolved, dissociated pain and trauma. Through the dissolution of pain-based energies, the connection to the authentic self and inner wisdom strengthens, which opens a gateway to living in deeper ways from the state of being and in the actuality of creation. Satan, in Aramaic, a state of mind, the resistor, one who misleads. As one's resistance is progressively dismantled, which is what happens through the use of the breath, a higher source in perception, vision becomes available. Rather than being locked into the replicate mind and re-experiencing the miscreations and abuse of one's own unresolved generational patterns and misperceptions, awareness and the experience of self as love opens on a whole new level. The ultimate objective of the quantum stillpoint process is to free oneself from the influence of energetic patterns, often generational, behind the "why is this happening to me again" experience that overtakes lives regardless of how many defense mechanisms, no matter how brilliantly one tries to hide. The deep sense of safety and support experienced in the process opens the freedom to access on multiple levels what one has attempted to hide, but really has only hidden from themselves. The purpose of life when one lives in deception is to uncover, to expose that deception by kicking us right square in the limitation. That is the reason for all pain and untoward experiences. The deeper the deception, the harder the kick. Nothing is ever truly hidden, but is always seen indirectly in the light of day. It all comes out in the wash. Unconscious dynamics, when the space is safe enough, are suddenly revealed. They become clear and show themselves directly in the mind, where, because of the presence of active love, dissolution, called forgiveness, occurs spontaneously. Loosened through the breath, Ruka Dekucha, there is a release of toxic deposits as energies based in any form of fear and or hostility are accessed, faced, and dissipated. The human energy field is not designed to harbor any form of fear, nor its siblings, pain, suffering, loss, disappointment, or hostility. The energy of love is the very life force that is designed to fuel both body and mind. Misaligned physiology renders proper signaling based in love unavailable, as everything else pushes its way out and is, quote-unquote, made known in the light of day. As resistance is reduced and alignment is progressively perfected, there's a proportional increase in life energy flow. And instead of external expression, unconscious dynamics become internally available. And the instant they are correctly perceived, they are spontaneously resolved. Joy is a natural byproduct of this process of release, no matter the depth, the age, the intensity, or cause of the trauma. As the actual energy of love flows freely throughout the body and mind, dissociated memories are loosed. As overlays of both personal and generational patterns of energetic trauma are liberated and flushed out of tissue, the structure is freed of distortions and abnormalities. So-called physical diseases, rather than being treated, are now able to be released at the cause level. The expressions of these changes are called miracles. Working within beliefs, rather than the actuality of what exists, is somewhat like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The band sounds better, but the ship's still going down. Direct contact with actuality, rather than living through beliefs and perceptual constructs of the mind, removes us from projections of past and future. Review the Max Planck quote that we opened with. Be still and know. Freed from projected mental constructs, being, inspired, incarnates quietly into the mind and body that lets go and is free of negative stress. By entering gently into this quiet space of profound stillness, physiologically induced, and inviting the mind, which causes all minds to be, to bring reorganization and restructuring, as well as sync you with deeper levels of presence, is the cause of wholeness and healing. This is all based Excuse me, my page just skipped. Give me just a second here to pull my page back up. So this is all based in the teachings and understanding presented in the ancient Aramaic presentations of the great physician, who was not a miracle worker, but an actual physician. A physician as real in practice as any physician known today. His healing messages were so badly distorted when interpreted by Greek philosophers who called themselves translators, that he, if exposed to their messages today, would say, "That's all Greek to me." The physiological architecture of the human form as an energy system is designed to move continuously through a wide range of structural shapes. Any restriction or alteration in motion means a deprivation, distortion, and/or blockage of energy flow. The bony structure of the quote-unquote body in its natural state is literally an intricate, delicately tuned, highly complex, self-adjusting antenna designed to move through a wide range of shapes and capture a similarly broad range of energies. The shape of an antenna determines the frequencies it receives and broadcasts. Physical, mental, and emotional trauma, including things like the birthing process, can compromise or disturb the antenna's proper rhythm, structure, and motion, thus inhibiting energy flow. Since all energy carries information, a loss of blockage or change to that information results in challenges. The restoration of proper motion, structure, and flow undoes those acquired dynamic stores missing information. The blockage I'm referring to generally takes one of two forms. First is the inhibition of access to what the system is designed to receive and function from, hence a loss of guidance, often resulting in dysfunction, emptiness, physiological and psychospiritual disturbances, hopelessness, blocked creativity, and disease. The second type of blockage is the effect of willful denial and dissociation from content that is acquired or held within the system. This results in an unnatural state called the unconscious mind, that which is covered over by the quote-unquote veil of the temple, which over generations results in aberrant emotions and behavior prompts that interfere with cell and organ function, each of which disturbs and destroys lives. In the world, these anomalies mean that the energetic patterns with which we create our lives, the energies which we literally emanate or send out into the world, are distorted. The individual in denial thinks they're sending out one message, which they blame the receiver for misreading. Truth is, life always responds perfectly to the exact unconscious signal sent. And the one in denial tends to be left wondering, why are they doing this to me again? And another quote from Carl Jung: until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. Whatever is rejected from the self appears through blame in the world, called perception, as an event. We meet ourselves and our projections on others time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. Everything that appears to irritate us about others can lead to understanding and healing of oneself. Carl Jung, slightly edited. The principal actions at the core of the quantum still point are the mobilization of the structure and the freeing of restrictions, which restores the integrity of its movement as the still point breath melts and dissolves blocks and disintegrative energies as they surface. Forgiving inhibiting energies and restoring the full range of motion at the core of the structure facilitates reception of proper signals and operative energies that are interchanged with that in which we quote-unquote live, move, and have our being. This process also cleans up energetic patterns, the instruction sets we are continuously sending out to the world. With punishment, attack, trauma and defense dissolved, forgiven, the inevitable and natural shift in others as they respond to the new energetic instructions extended, which now match conscious intentions and goals, is usually called a miracle. Internally, that looks like, I did this work inside of me and they changed. What in fact has happened is that having resolved an internal dissociated conflict, one no longer sends out inconsistent messages to the world. The mystic's journey is completed. The ultimate result of the liberation of generationally acquired incoherent energies of the past, despair, violence, suffering, pain, and death, gives rise to a host of new skills, including the ability to be the presence of love and compassion in all circumstances. Love has incarnated in the manger of form. Creature and creator become at one. The sweet space of quietness and serenity then extends to all unquiet minds, and brings an instant of stillness where the awareness of the eternal presence of love has an opportunity to return. Remembering is quiet now. So I join you in breathing and allowing whatever that resonates for you to move through you. And let's see if Patrick was able to stay with us. Patrick, are you there?
I'm here.
You're there. You made it all the way through? Awesome.
Yeah, well, I did. I thought today, unlike the other two times, I was wired out, tried to get something to eat before I did this. And so I'm busy listening, and then I lay down, and I go, okay, relax. And you know what? I felt like nothing happened until you said something, I don't know, I passed out again. At the very end, it was like instantaneous. I have no idea why I wait, but
StillPoint?
When you made an announcement, so yeah, I went off. I'm gone. And I came back about the time you made the announcement. It wasn't very long. It didn't take very long. But it's nice. Anyway, so let's see. I'm making an effort to be excited because it's difficult to talk now. Here's the real me.
Yeah. Were you aware of what was moving when you went into that still point?
Not at all. I don't know. What I do know is that all the way through, the other times I listened to the tones of your voice, the energy coming through, and I noticed that there was a change this time where you were making more of a presentation, more neutral beingness. And then I think I know what it was. At the end, I noticed the voice tones were more flowing and, within the context of flowing poetry and love. And that, got me. I think that's what got me. So anyway, all my busy, do, just let go. Which reminds me, there was something I was thinking along the way that was important, and that was that you would say that we built an association over the last 50 years, but I would say that I was called a hard shell, and I've only been letting go of it recently, hard shell, soft core. So I protected myself by being tight, stiff, hard, all the external.
Right.
And but when you started the still point, I did something by imagination or by creativity or by guidance. I would say my guidance was just to unzip the bag around me. Now, and I'm going to say something weird about that in a minute, but when I unzipped it, what I was saying was, I'm willing to go through this, something I never mentioned. I'm willing to give myself over to Michael totally, and even if I get injured through this, or hurt or jammed up in any way, shape, or form, it's okay, I'll heal. It's not going to be a big deal. So I was saying to myself in my language, I'm totally letting go. I'm willing, very important. I'm letting go of all defense mechanisms, which is what holds the junk. The fear of letting go of the belief systems that are protecting you. They're the belief systems that are screwing you up. It's like, what? So I did that, and I think that's very important.
It's the core.
That I just totally gave myself over.
Yeah, the mind plays this game up. I got to figure it out. And the fact is that the dynamics are so huge and the project is so monumental that there's no such thing as even getting close to figuring it out. But and that's where that one thought comes. And to me, one of the main objectives of the Quantum StillPoint is to inspire the mind to, as I said in the reading, at least for an instant to let go. And I believe what's happening there, my best understanding at this point of what's happening there, is that we have this created energy system that was created in total perfection as a vehicle and instrument for love. And then it was turned over to us. You know, you could almost imagine the moment in which the Creator says, okay, this is it. This is my highest expression. So now I'm going to go inside and I'm going to just become obedient. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Ask and you'll receive. You know, you listen in the ancient scriptures and it says, here's the Creator talking to it, says, of the works of my hands command ye me. The Creator's telling us, tell me what you want and I'll bring it to you. And I believe that that's an absolute on the part of the Creator, and it doesn't matter what it is we ask for, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Creator has no choice now. The Creator has said, I will follow your direction. And when we come into this form, the perfect is already there, and then we've got what science is starting to refer to as epigenetics. And my take at this point in understanding is that epigenetics is literally all of the instruction sets that have been given through all time in our bloodline, and they are held in place by what the ancient scriptures refer to as the mind of man. If you remember the passage in where Yeshua is outside the Garden of Gethsemane, and Peter has got the sword and he's going after the high priest servant, and Yeshua addresses Peter there directly as Satan. He says, get thee behind me, Satan. And then he defines what he means by it. He says, for you think in the mind of man rather than the plan of God. And what science is now calling epigenetics, I've come to understand, is that set of programming that has been passed on through the generations, and it's held in place by the mind of man. And to me, the single objective, and this is the Quantum StillPoint, is to get the mind to let go. And that's where everything shifts. Does that fit with your experience? That's where the pelvic tilt changed.
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Hello. So it's kind of, right now, it's similar to the other two times that I listened, but it was earlier on that I got, let's see if I can speak without the effort. Anyway, it's almost like I'm just peaceful being where I'm at, but I'm making an effort to speak, but I don't, only because it'll help other people or complete what we're doing. I listen to what you say and I have reactions, but I'm so relaxed.
Easier to just stay there.
Yeah,
I got it.
Just wanna.
I got it. Yay. That's the objective.
So it's kind of like I have a mind and I can speak, but my preference is let go and don't have a mind and don't speak and don't do anything. Just let go.
I'm with you. Yep. Yeah, that's the space to I think that we are designed to inhabit. That's the Quantum StillPoint. Sweet. Well, Patrick, thank you for this conversation. Our show has already announced in my ear that our time is up, so it's going to cut us off any second. But thank you for that, and it's nice to have a this now recorded, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do exactly what you did. I'm going to go and breathe into it and just listen to it myself now. So thank you for that suggestion.
You're welcome.
All right, my friend. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. I cherish you. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Thanks.